Yeah, hi, my friend. Good evening, and welcome to the strategy session on how to prepare for IIFT in about 5 days' time. So, if you are preparing for IIFT, it would certainly benefit you because we have about 5 to 6 days, and how to go about what are the things that you need to consider and do the last 5 days is what we are technically looking at through this particular session, right? That's been the objective of this particular session. And yes, so as I go through, before I kind of get on to that, let me quickly introduce myself and then I will take you through this particular presentation. I'm Belvi Srinivas. I've been working in the test prep industry since 2007. That's about 14 years now. Yes, in the 14 years, I did train students technically for most of the MBA entrance exams and especially for CAT, IFT, and ZAT, and a few other more. But then these are primarily like what I kind of trained the students upon. Yes, I did work in various capacities with different organizations, as you can see on this particular deck. Yeah, that's briefly about me. So I'm not only a good trainer in the space of QA, and LR. Yes, I did counsel the students and mentor the students in this particular space. Yeah, quickly coming to this, how can you reach out to me? You can reach me using this particular Telegram channel for the short concerns that you have, if any. Yes, or you have a few questions to be asked or a few clarifications that you are seeking. Not only there are many active students on this particular Telegram channel where you can have some peer interaction, and wherever my intervention is required, certainly, right, I do chip in and try to suggest you on few parameters. Yeah, so on this note, let's kind of get into the strategy session on IIFT. Strategy from the perspective of, hi, how do I need to prepare in about 5 days from now, right? So we are sitting on 29th of this particular month, and this exam seems to be on 5th of December, which is the Sunday. That's about 10 a.m. in the morning. So that leaves us with about 4 or 5 days. So how do we go about this? So these are the features of the exam, which certainly anybody trying to take the IIFT would be certainly aware of. Yeah, it's a 2-hour paper, just like CAT that got concluded yesterday. It's a 2-hour paper, and all MCQs. There are no non-MCQs in this particular paper. There are only MCQs. Yeah, unlike CAT, we have 4 sections. What is that additional to this? Just first 3 sections appear more like CAT. There is a quantitative analysis, there is a reading comprehension and verbal ability, there is a data interpretation and logical reasoning. But in addition to that, hey, there is a general awareness section as well, which seems to be little different from CAT. That's the only difference. Otherwise, the skill areas are more or less similar. When we say that entrance exam, so yes, of course, we are writing this exam in the year 2021, but this is for the batch. IIFT always talks from the batch perspective. So therefore, when I present the data, don't get confused. So it's from the batch. So you are getting into a batch of 2022 and 24. That's a whole point out here. But yes, of course, you may be taking the test a little advanced. That's what you are trying to say. You are trying to write the test in the month of December 2021, but then you are trying to seek an admission for 2022 and 24 batch. That's how kind of IIFT projects the dates and the admission kind of. Yeah, correct. Coming to this, therefore, how was this was the first online paper. So admission test 2020-2022 means what? This test has technically taken place somewhere in the month of November, December 2019, right? No, the test technically happened in 2019, the fag end of 2019, but this is for the admission to a batch 2020 and 2022. This is the first online paper. You may say that, sir, CAT was online since 2009. That's right? CAT 2009 was online, but then IIFT did it right after 10 years. IIFT, the first online paper came in the year 2019. The first CAT online paper came in the year 2009. There is a 10 years gap. After 10 years, they kind of made it online. And of course, as most of you know, that NTA conducts this particular test. That is National Testing Agency, which also conducts most of the exams like GATE, all the government GATE or banking exams. Most of the exams are conducted by this particular body, that is National Testing Agency, and this also conducts the test, which is IIFT, right? So don't get confused when I say that IIFT admission test 2020 to 2022, it is referring to a batch because that's how they brand it. It's a batch, admission to that particular batch, but the test has technically happened in the year 2019, which is the first online test. Let's see what were the features of this particular online test. Yeah, there were 4 sections. There is a QA as a section, RC and VA comes together, DILR comes together, general awareness as one of the sections. Take a look at the questions. There were about 25 questions in QA. There are about 35 questions and 30 questions and 20 questions and totally about 110 questions. Yeah, about this, and there were 3 markers. GK was 1.5 marker, the lesser weightage was given for GK. The marks were adding up to about 300, right? Let's just keep that ballpark figure in mind. A negative marking is 1/3, negative marking is 1/3, that is 3, 1/3 of it, 1.5, 1/3 of it. The negative marking is as high as 1/3 of the test paper. Let's come to the cutoff. Say first paper had certain glitches. There were some wrong questions or wrongly presented ones, etc. Therefore, most of them were given those particular grace marks. Therefore, you may see that, hey, if you look at the sectional cutoffs for general category and OBC, one particular cutoff, and the rest of the categories have the other cutoff. So they have 2 kinds of cutoffs. So in these 2 kinds of cutoffs, you understand that, hey, the paper, just take a look at this, the paper was for 75 marks, but the cutoff was technically 9 marks. But then it was scaled to 15 marks because there seems to be a couple of errors. There seems to be 2 questions which were kind of error, and a lot of people might have spent that time, all that stuff they didn't know. Therefore, flat, they kind of added 6 marks to everyone, right? Whatever the marks that they have added, so mark everyone. But let's say that, hey, therefore, leave those questions. You might have spent time, not spent time. Technically, one should have scored 9 marks, implies that 3 questions is what one should have answered, right? Technically, one should have answered. As usual, the verbal had high cutoff, 105 mark section, but the cutoff seems to be at 34. So verbal had a higher cutoff, and DILR had a cutoff about 4 to 5 questions. Technically, you got to 3 marks per question. Therefore, 13 marks is what, about 5 questions. Yeah, that's a DI and LR put together. General awareness, yes, 1.5 marks. Therefore, again, about 4 questions. If you just get about 4 questions right, you will at least clear the cutoff. My point is what? Hey, clearing the sectional cutoffs is not a problem unless it's an easier section. You need to be mindful about the VARC section because the sectional cutoffs for VARC tends to be little higher. We'll come to it. Nevertheless, we'll come to it. Sectional cutoff perspective, but still scoring 34. Yeah, 34 is a little higher because you may say that, hey, when you look from this perspective, 1/3 of the marks of that particular section is a sectional cutoff, but that is not true in any other section. Nevertheless, bottom line, clearing sectional cutoffs is not a problem, right? Am I looking at only one test to draw that conclusion? Certainly not. So I will also take you through few other papers there. You may say that, sir, what is this 11 here and what is this 13 here and 22 here? Again, there were 3 glitch questions here. There were 3 questions. Therefore, they kind of added 9 marks to everybody. Therefore, official website said that 22 is the sectional cutoff, but then it was technically 13, which means if somebody would have got 13 marks, that turned out to be the sectional cutoff. Because there were 3 questions wrong and then they didn't know who would have attempted them, who might not have attempted them. Therefore, they said that for everybody I will give that grace mark, right? That's a point there. So you may agree, disagree. What if somebody wouldn't have attempted those questions? Doesn't matter. That's a decision that the body has taken. Yeah, coming to this, what about the overall cutoff, right? Overall cutoff is about, out of 300 marks, the overall cutoff for general category is technically about 123. You may say that is somewhere about 40% of that particular section, about 40% you could say. That's where you could kind of mark it. Yeah, based upon different categories, different scores are there. All these numbers are from their official website itself, right? All these numbers are from their official website. That gives a kind of a ballpark figure going ahead. Now, these cutoffs are for all their campuses, whether you will be finally getting an admission in a Delhi campus or will you be getting in a Kolkata campus, Kakinada campus, where do you get, doesn't matter. But this is what it matters to us. By the end of the discussion, you'll be very clear as to how you need to prepare. But before preparing, because if I directly tell you that prepare this, you might have a question in your mind saying that why should I prepare for these areas, right? So before I say how you need to prepare for these, what areas you need to prepare for, let me take some time to quickly illustrate that why those areas are kind of important out there, right? Yeah, okay. Let's take a look at this. Decent shot for conversion, Utkarsh, that we will see it later, right? First, let me get through the data here. As much as possible, you score it based on your profiles, etc. Because with these cutoffs, people have gone through based on the profiles, because there are a lot of other parameters which come in, isn't it? Yeah. Coming to this next year, that was your previous year, 21-23, when this particular test was held. This was held in Jan, right? In the month of Jan 2021. Because of COVID, generally most of the entrance tests were held in the month of December, Jan of the previous year, November, December of the previous year. Generally, IIFT is held in the month of November or December, fag end of November or early December. But because of COVID, they had to shift it to Jan this particular year, Jan 2021. for their batch of 2021-23. Generally, the college starts in the month of June, July, fag end of July or fag end of June or early July kind of situation for that particular batch. So even if you look at this, hey, what are these brackets I'm talking about? This was the second edition of online test, right? This was the second edition of online test. Those who are writing this particular year, it is going to be the third edition of online test, right? Yeah, it's third edition. This was the second edition I'm talking about. Not too much of difference. If you look at this, hey, 9 marks, this has become 8 marks. That's a cutoff. Same here, call it 75 marks was the total 75 marks section. About 8 is the cutoff. But then if you look at this verbal, it has come down to 19. All right, now, so all of you must take look at the previous 2-year papers, not only 2 years, in fact 4-year papers, just to understand that, man, how can this be such variation? Yeah, it was super tough verbal section. It was a super tough verbal section. We'll come to that in a while. DILR, no change, right? General awareness, no change. Therefore, you could say that you kind of get a ballpark figure that cutoffs is not a big deal unless a particular section becomes super tough. Just like in this particular case, VARC last year was really super tough unless somebody was really good in verbal skills, right? Yeah. So otherwise, generally we can say that we can plug that particular number, kind of. Fair enough. Let's keep that in mind. What is the overall cutoff here? They didn't disclose it because this is how the admission criteria was. They said that the general category, the overall cutoff is 43.5 marks. Again, 40%. Earlier also I said that about 40% is good. So now you may say that, but how it is 43.5 and the sectional cutoffs are something like this, right? You may wonder. Sectional cutoffs itself is adding up to be more than 43, right? Then what is this 43 means? There is a different criteria by which they kind of have done this. So what is the table? They said that please refer to serial number 2. Who said? The admission authorities themselves. Where is that where is the table? This was the table they were referring to. Your marks 300 will be scaled down to 73%. In the sense you said that IIFT test paper was for 300 marks. 300 marks implies 73. Therefore, your marks implies how much? That is how they have kind of taken it while making the final presentation. 300 marks corresponds to 73 points. All they meant is the 300 marks corresponds to 73 points. Therefore, whatever the score you have got, what does that translates to? Similarly, 10th marks had 10 points, but the marks in the 12th has 10 points. This is while giving the call, not the final selection, while giving a call. If you have to get a call for the interview, this was the criteria, right? So 10th marks were considered, 12th marks were considered. Academic diversity, anybody who is not an engineer will straight away get 5 points before they get the call, right? Straight away 5 points. If you're an engineer, you lose these 5 points. You have to get these 5 points from somewhere else. It can be from your ACATs or it can be from your test score, doesn't matter. Yeah, anybody who is the gender diversity is only men versus women. If a women, directly 2 points. Now think about it. If somebody is a non-engineer and a female, non-engineer and a female means you got 7 marks out of 100 marks straight away. You have not put any effort, just that you did not do engineering and you are a woman. Engineering and a woman implies that you already got 7 points even before you write the test, right? Even before you write the test. Yeah, fair, unfair, all that different issue, but this is the criteria. Based on this, they said that you should score 43.5. Greater details are available on the website. Please go there. There is a 69-page document which is available. How you get these 10 marks? What does it mean by these 10 points? What does these mean by these 10 points, etc.? They have explained it. They have explained it in a 69-page document. All 69 pages is not about it. So there is a page dedicated for these 10 points and 10 points. Please go ahead and take a look at that particular one. You will kind of understand even before you enter the hall how many points you already got out of this. All this is decided. These points are decided. This is decided. What I'm trying to say is you can calculate right today how much you are getting here, how much you are getting here. If you are a non-engineer, you are directly getting 5 points. If you are a woman, you are directly getting 2 points. This scale is already ready. All you got to do is you just have to convert only this particular scale. 73 corresponds to 300. Therefore, whatever the marks you got in the exam corresponds to how much, right? That is how the IIFT makes a call for the interview stage. So that is what they meant. Therefore, so these were the cutoffs, 43.5, about 40%. So if somebody is like OBC or EWS, it's about 36 points and etc. etc. It's clear there. You can go to the website and you can take a look at this. I'm just giving a ballpark figure so that you kind of understand it. Okay. Now 2 years that we have done. So cutoffs appeared. I'm just drawing a parallel to the cutoffs itself. Take a look at this particular cutoff as well. It's one marker, right? So 1920, which means this test happened in November 2018. This particular test was held in November 2018. It is a paper pencil based test. This was a paper pencil based test. There were 1 markers, 0.75 markers, in the sense hey, there was reading comprehension was a different section from verbal ability, and both of them had a sectional cutoff. General awareness was different, quantitative ability, then LR was different from a DI, and both of them had sectional cutoff, right? And there was a differential marking. Verbal ability was 0.75. What is verbal ability? Grammar, vocab, parajumbles, parasummaries, all that comes under the verbal ability, as we know. So marks for 0.75, general awareness 0.5, and total marks. Take a look at the total marks, maximum marks versus the cutoff, 1 mark. So cutoff is just about 2.5 something, which means somebody gets about 3 questions right in the reading comprehension. That should be good enough for them, right? So therefore sectional cutoffs is never a problem. What I understood from IIFT paper is sectional cutoff a challenge for anyone? Absolutely not. Sectional cutoff is not a problem, because this is 2 marks, 2 marks, 1 mark, 2 mark, 2 mark kind of. So if you add up all of them, it somewhere adds up to 11-12 marks kind of. That's a sectional cutoff altogether. Overall cutoff, yeah, for a men it is 32.5, for a women it is 30.25. It was different, right? Earlier what happened was that matrix was not there, where they were giving 2 extra marks, 2% extra marks for the women. Now it is there, so therefore there is no different cutoff for men and women. Directly women get 2 additional points irrespective of their backgrounds. Engineering, non-engineering, doesn't matter, they used to give those points. Earlier it was something like this. Women cutoffs were always 2 less for IIFT, always. Historically it operated like that, right? Yeah, so therefore you get a ballpark figure. If you add up all these numbers, it adds up to somewhere about 12, let us say, but then the overall works out to be somewhere about 32. Now you may wonder, hey, overall it was a 100 marks paper. 33 is kind of like, what we are talking about. 1/3 is what we are talking about as the total cutoff. That's a truth. That's a truth of the matter. So now you can understand that. Is it a really easy paper? That's what you need to understand it. If this is the cutoff what the B school is suggesting to make an interview, is it going to be really an easy kind of paper? Because they don't have 80-90 colleges like what when you write a CAT, you have set of 80-90 colleges to apply. In the sense that you can apply to IMT Ghaziabad, you can apply to TAPMI, you can apply to Goa Institute of Management, and whatnot, all that whole list. But then here it is not. It's only 3 colleges, right? Technically 2 or 3 colleges. So the Delhi campus or Kolkata campus or Kakinada campus, nothing beyond that. But then like it's a cutoff for any of those particular campuses. That's what they're trying to tell here. Right, okay, let's go a step back by 1 more year just to understand this particular facet. Just to understand this, if I step back by another particular year, so you again see that hey, out of 100 marks, so again the cutoffs are about 2 marks, 3 marks. Sometimes like general awareness was 0.82 marks, in the sense less than 2 questions, because people could not really do well. If I increase it to more than 0.82, people will not qualify for interview. So therefore cutoffs are decided by how people have prepared in that particular year, right? Yeah, and then you understand that hey, look at the DI, 0.25 marks, unbelievable, right? 0.25 marks, that was the cutoff for DI, and logical reasoning somewhere about 5.67 marks, something like that. Okay, but what about the overall? Somewhere about 35 marks. So therefore you kind of understand that how IIFT sectional cutoffs are way too different from the overall cutoff. That gives us a kind of a perspective. Okay guys, before we move further, let me are you all with me on this? Are you all with me on this? Did this data make some sense? Yeah, anyone here? Can you quickly put in the chat, because I didn't ask anything out there because I went on a monologue, just quickly to throw some data in front of you. Yeah. Before I go to the second part of the second part of the discussion. So is it making sense what I'm trying to say? Okay, more data is available on the website. You can always go there and pick it up. So, but then before I go further, it's important that we need to understand certain things. 35% to 40% is what we are kind of looking at. Okay, Satyam, Srishti, Vivek are kind of all right. Great. Okay. Now, before I go further, let me quickly make certain announcements and move on. Okay, there seems to be some new batches that are getting launched from 1st of December. If anybody is looking at the ZAT preparation, you can certainly look at this particular batch. Looks pretty promising to me. Yeah, on 1st December, yes, there is a batch starting for CAT 22. These are the 2 batches, and anyone is preparing for other management entrance exams CAT for 22. That's a weekend batch. All right, there is a weekend batch. There seems to to be a weekday batch, and there is a ZAT prep. How do we get into this? So you might have to take if you want any structured courses on any of the programs, you may have to buy the subscription. On any of these subscription, you do get 10% discount whenever you use an educator code, including my code, which is Belvi 100. Doesn't mean that you get 100% discount on all these programs. You get about 10% discount whenever you use the educator code. My preference is always been going for Iconic subscription because you get a lot of one-to-ones. In fact, every week you can discuss something with your mentor, right? With whoever the educator that you would like to discuss. You get 25 one-to-ones when you buy a pack of 6 months pack of Iconic, in the sense like one per week kind of, because 6 months has about 25 weeks, right? So therefore you get one per week discussion. You can discuss anything, or anything from your prep calendar to preparation plan to your mocks to your whatever, or your profiling. So you can set up a meeting with the mentor of your choice and you can discuss with them so that you know that okay, you are traveling in the right direction, right? So here you get 50 one-to-ones, here you get 100 one-to-ones. Hey, one-to-ones will certainly help, guys. So no point repenting at a later stage. So when you are looking at 30 years of your career of earning lakhs of rupees every particular year to start with, hey, so these amounts doesn't make sense. So don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Some people do such decisions. Be mindful. Discussions with people of the right caliber matters, right? And that will be one-to-one, because we are all different. What matters to Srishti is very different from what matters to Vivek, because our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities are pretty different, right? We are all pretty different. Any which ways, coming back to this, there seems to be an offer, a limited edition offer here. Instead of 25 one-to-ones in 6 months in Iconic, you get 35. That is 40% extra, right? In 6 months period, you get 35 one-to-ones. In a 12 months, I just said that hey, there are 50 one-to-ones, but you get 70, right? But you kind of get 70 out here. That's again 40% extra. That's the offer there, which means you can have more one-to-one interactions with the mentors of your choice. Not only that, there is an early bird offer till about 30th of this November. That's till tomorrow. You get 20% discount on the subscriptions that I said. So I just told you that there is a 10% on the educator code and 10% from the Unacademy. Unacademy from the product itself, you can avail 10%. So which kind of makes it about 20%. It's an early bird offer. So but these offers are available on the long duration programs, 12 months, 18 months and 24 months. If it suits any of you, already you can kind of take a look at this. Coming back to this, this was a snapshot, right? This is a snapshot. So let's worry about more 2021 and 2020-22. All right, now let's worry about these two online editions. So therefore, if I just put it next one, which means for the year 2022-24, you guys are looking at the admission for 2022 and 24, it would be more on the similar lines, right? There were 16 questions on RCs and there were 19 questions on VA. I'll quickly come to the composition of these particular questions, right? And these were the cutoffs. Now look at this contrast in the cutoff. When the section is easy, cutoff will go as high as 39, 34, and the section is tough, it goes as low as 90. This for only the general category. That's why sometimes when you guys ask an educator, sir, what will be the cutoff, cannot be decided until the paper is seen, until that particular section is seen. Because sometimes you guys will be wondering that why somebody don't tell me a number that at this number you get this kind of percentile, at this number you will clear the cutoff. Not possible, because in our tenure of last 15 years, we have come across this variety. You guys might not have, you might be seeing only last 1 or 2 years, but we kind of came across certain varieties. Therefore, we kind of try to duck that particular question for a simple reason that hey, there are all kinds of varieties which you have seen. For example, I'll take a look at this. For 2017-19, the cutoff was 9 marks, right? And coming to this now, if you take a look at this particular one, it was about 6 marks, right? 9 marks all from here till here. It was about 10 marks and it will suddenly come down to 6 marks. Too much of a difference. It appears like 40% less than the expectation. Previous year it was 10 marks. Now on the other year it becomes 6, which means what? 40% less than what it used to be, right? So therefore it's very difficult to comment such questions. Nevertheless, it depends. Therefore we always tell that hey, learn to calibrate the section at that point in time, which is very important. You got to understand that hey, it's a tougher nut. Let me go slowly, let me get meticulously. Appears to be quite challenging paper, so I need to just clear the cutoff and maximize my marks somewhere else. So that was the decision which was very, very important between those two particular years. Hey, coming 2020 to 24, when you guys are writing, it's similar pattern. You can expect that 4 RCs with 4 questions each. That's 16 questions and 19 VA questions, right? Coming to this, what are these breakups that we are talking about? Yeah, as I said, there are 4 RCs with 4 questions. Let's take a look at these 2 data. That's important for us. And there were 3 parajumbles. There were 2 questions on grammar and 14 questions on vocabulary. And there were 13 questions on vocabulary. Guys, it's a very weird vocabulary. It's a very weird vocabulary which was asked in this particular paper. In these 14 questions of vocabulary, pretty weird. Therefore, you need to look at that particular paper to understand the expectation of IIFT. I am not hoping that the similar kind of paper will come this time, but I'll not be surprised if they give a similar kind of paper even this particular year. So therefore, if you say that where my scoring comes from, your scoring technically comes from your vocabulary, right? No, very contrary to CAT, right? There are 16 questions on RC and equal number of questions on vocabulary as well, kind of vocab based. Okay, what is the kind of vocab base that we are talking about? They will talk about the roots. They will say that what is the origin, from what origin, is it a Greek origin, is it a Latin origin? Tell me the origin of this particular word, to idioms and phrases, right, to any of this, right, any of this. So therefore the grammar and vocab kind of plays their role out here. So what do you need to be doing? Therefore I say that in the next 4 or 5 days, now let's understand that what I need to be doing. You have to build familiarity with vocab. I'm not saying that in 4 or 5 days you'll become a master of vocab, not that, but building that familiarity is important. Next few days, every day for a couple of hours, you need to be doing vocab. Simply open the Norman Lewis, last 1000 words are there, high frequency words are there, or there is a GRE book if you are holding, or there would be words because GRE is known for vocabulary. Pull out that particular book and start reading on that particular book. It is important. What it does, I'm not promising you that you will cover a large number of words. Idea is not that. Idea is get the form, get into the groove. All right, now get into that. Don't stay, because for a CAT, when you prepared for CAT, you might not have really focused so much on vocab. So idea is what? Hey, build familiarity, get into that rhythm. All right, you will get certain rhythm. Thereby, I'm not saying, because the cutoffs are pretty, cutoffs are very small, but it's not about the cutoff. If somewhere you can score as well, provided somewhere you build up that particular momentum. All you can do in these 4 or 5 days is you can certainly build momentum on vocab, provided you invest about 10 to 15 hours on vocab, just about 2 hours every single day. That's a kind of effort which should go on. Do varieties, right? So what are the kind? So you will get analogies, you will get word origins, you will get idioms and phrases, and a little bit of grammar as well. Open up your grammar book and there will be exercise at the end. Start doing that grammar, because since most of you are coming from the CAT background, in the sense we prepared so much for the CAT in the last 1 month or so, we might not have paid so much attention to the grammar. Maybe this is the time you might have to refresh and build little familiarity with respect to grammar, right? That's what you mean by RCVA section of IIFT. All right, yeah. Is it helping someone? Are the inputs helping someone? Can someone confirm there in the chat? Is this helping someone? Are the inputs helping someone? Can somebody quickly confirm there? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Now coming to the DILR section. Firstly, there is no calculator, right? Let's be very mindful about it that, hey, no calculator. Let's first put that in the mind. No calculator, because while you are doing the mocks for CAT, etc., so you are all at the back of your mind, at least you know that there is a calculator. Very clearly, there is no calculator. Therefore, that's something that you have to keep at the back of your mind. And always, now look at the DIs and the LRs are kind of equal, 50%. So I'm looking at this pattern once again. I'm looking at this pattern, 30 question pattern. So this year also I'm expecting the similar pattern. The breakup can change a little bit. Here it was 4 cross 4. There were 4 sets of DI with 4 questions each. And of course, there were LRs, all with different parameters. We'll come to it there. The cutoffs are very small, no doubt about it. It is a 90 section paper, 90 mark section, but their cutoffs was only just about 13 marks. So be it, so be it, that doesn't matter to us. Okay, coming to this, what you got to be doing is, since there is no calculator and the DIs also have mixed charts, etc., DIs is completely graph. IIFT DI is totally, thoroughly graphs, right? And it's really required for the B school perspective. Oh, you see hundreds of graphs, my friend. So every single day you see some 20-30 graphs when you're on a B school campus. There is no choice in the matter. Therefore, IIFT is Totally. All right. Now that they're building this, I completely agree with their format on DI. They give mixed graphs and then the numbers. You have to kind of like you need to be a little familiar with them. So what I need to be doing, one important thing you need to be doing here is every day for about 15 to 20 minutes. Right, 15 to 20 minutes, you have to calculate approximations, and every day you should be doing 3 to 4 DI sets. It's required because the CAT DI sets are very different. It is not that completely graphs, etc. CAT gives more on the reasoning based DI. So, but then here the DI and LRs are a little different here. The DIs is completely graph and graph and graph. Totally, it's about graph. All right, yeah. So keeping that in mind, you may have to practice approximations. Otherwise, your speed would be really halted and it appears to be frustrating when you are doing your IIFT paper. Right, so therefore, so when you are coming from that CAT background, so you need to keep it in mind that all you got to do is 15 to 20. Guys, don't do multiplication, addition. It is not about that, right? It is not about that. It's about, you will have the percentage figures, etc., etc. You need to learn those approximations. Be mindful about it. Hey, speed calculation means I will learn some multiplication. Hey, don't be childish, right? So because a lot of people think that I have to learn some multiplication, how to multiply 23 with 83. Hey, that's small element. So you will not get 23 into 83 every time. It is more to do with some 3-digit number by 4-digit number, 2-digit number by this, or some 4-digit number by 3-digit number, whatsoever it is. You know the numbers, right? You know the numbers. So there will be always, like, approximation is with respect to that. Build more familiarity with respect to that. That certainly helps. For that, first take a look at the previous 3 to 4 editions of IIFT paper. Only then you will understand what you meant by DI, not by just what I'm trying to say. You need to see them as well, right, to believe what I'm trying to tell them. Okay, so this anyway, all right, now it's kind of clear there what we are trying to see here, right? What we are trying to see here. Let's come back to this, right? Yeah, let's come back to this here. So what is that? All right, now, so what is that we are kind of expecting here? So DI sets, these are sets. There were 4 sets, there were 5 sets. Leave those particular sets. Right now, so that's a set 4 into 4 or 5 into 3, 5 into 4, or there were sometimes the sets with only 2 questions, right? Yeah, all that stuff. Traditional LR is important. LR is scoring. DI is not scoring. Between the two, between the DI and LR, if you ask me, sir, which is scoring? I would rather say that LR is scoring when compared with the DI here. But yeah, there are some people whose number crunching skills are pretty good. All right, for them DI is fair enough. That's what they are also kind of looking for. Doesn't matter. What I meant by the traditional LR. Traditional LR is arrangements, distribution, selection, right? You are a traditional LR, not like what you do in the CAT, not like what you do in the CAT, or very standard Venn diagrams, very standard games and tournament, right? So very standardized traditional LR is what I'm talking about. That has the higher weightage, right? 8 questions, 9 questions, whatever it is, that has higher weightage. One area that needs to be consistent is data structures, that is input output. Somebody didn't understand, please Google it later and figure out what is this input output talking about, or also sometimes you can Google it as a data structures, whichever way it is. Miscellaneous are nothing but there were some questions which came with 1 parameter each, which means a data followed by 1 question, a data followed by 1 question. It can be from direction sense, syllogisms, all that stuff. So I didn't go through that. I didn't categorize that. I just put it as miscellaneous here. So that miscellaneous can be like this: 1 question on series, number series, right? Yeah, or 2 questions on direction sense, 1 question on this. All that is what I'm trying to put under the miscellaneous parameter. Okay, so therefore coming to this, what I need to be focusing upon, you don't have to worry too much about traditional LR because you are already masters of it. You need to here worry about the DI sets. DI in the sense, every day practice 1 hour of DI, 1 to 2 hours of DI every day from here to the next 5 days. Practice 1 or 2 hours of DI. Good if you can do it from the previous year model, previous year papers itself. Just take out the last 4-year papers or 5-year papers. From there itself you kind of practice it. That should be good enough there, because that's the best way to practice if you ask me. That's the best way to practice. So DI is what you need to do every single day. That is about approximations, especially the approximations. You do the IIFT DIs, you automatically develop this skill of approximations because you don't have a choice. It so frustrates you that you will understand, I don't have a choice but to do this because there is no calculator out here. Right, coming to the quantitative aptitude, now this is what it is. 25 questions is what we are seeing. So I think we will continue to see these 25 questions in the coming in this particular edition as well. Yes, okay, now take a look at this. Take a look at this. I want you to run through from here till here. We are progressing to this, right? That is how we progress. Let's start here. Let's start here. It is known to give a surprise. There were years where there were 11 arithmetic questions and there were 4 algebra questions. it reverses, right? It reverses, and there comes a year where it kind of reverses. There was a year where there were only 3 arithmetic questions, and there seems to be like something like 8 algebra questions, right? So 8 algebra questions, whatsoever it is, right? So and then therefore if you kind of take a look at this, hey, the weightage keeps kind of changing. Hang on. I guess I made a mistake. This is 13. It's not about that. Okay, so I just want you to take a look at this. There were 4 and there are 8 algebra questions. Similarly, there were 7 algebra questions here, and there suddenly seems to be 2 algebra questions here. So therefore so I don't know this year how many algebra questions. It can be little higher than 4, I guess. So but then one thing which is consistent here over the years is nothing but the geometry and arithmetic might rule this year as well, but I'm not saying that I don't ignore algebra as well. See, 2 areas that you can kind of ignore is number systems. Numbers, they are not really particular about your remainders, this etc. They are not really worried about it. Number, you might have observed in this year's CAT as well. I don't think so. The B schools are pretty much worried about the numbers. Honestly speaking, are they worried about it? There was a time they were worried about it, but when you look at the last 5-year, 10-year trend, they are not worried about it because they're understanding that it is not having that kind of significance when you go to the B school. Other areas, these are the 4 areas which have the significance, out of which I would bet this particular year, I would bet on arithmetic, I would bet on geometry. Yeah, my third bet comes on algebra this year, because there seems to be the smaller numbers in the last 2 years of addition. They might throw in a surprise. IIFT is known to throw a surprise in one of the sections. It can be verbal, because last year it was verbal. They made it super tough. This year I'm kind of expecting that probably it could be QA. All right, QA, they might just throw a surprise. They might not make it tough. They might make it throw a surprise by just increasing the weightage for algebra. That's it. That's all I'm kind of expecting this particular year. Yeah, be ready for a surprise in this particular section, because verbal has already seen a surprise. DILR, they've never surprised us in DILR in the last 5-6 years. They kind of surprises between quant and verbal. I think verbal surprise came last year. Therefore, I'm kind of expecting that quant can throw some surprise this particular year is my expectation. Right? If you ask me, my expectation. Yeah. Other thing that you got to do is what? The third thing that you got to do is the general awareness. Again, I'm not saying that you will become a master of GK in the 5 days time. No. But can I build an orientation to GK in the 5 days time? You can certainly build. How do you do this? Just go through Pratyogita Darpan or GK Wizard or any GK magazine that you are already going through, or if you have access to, just go through it. It builds a mindset. It builds a momentum, right? That's good enough to clear the cutoffs, because the cutoffs are just solving 3, 4, 5 kind of questions. Out of 20 questions, I should be able to do about 5 questions. If I do about 5 of them, so I'm done there. So therefore, to do about 5 questions, just build that momentum. If you build that momentum, you do it. If you don't build that momentum, this 5 itself might appear quite a challenging task. That score itself might appear quite a challenging task unless you build that particular momentum there, because the 1/3 of the marks are negative. You get it wrong, or it will just deduct your 1/3 of the marks that you scored in that particular section, right? I've seen a lot of people kind of failing in the GK for a simple reason that, okay, they kind of don't read the newspapers regularly. They don't read magazines regularly. Then you are one of such persons. Then kind of build that momentum in the next 5 days. So how do you build momentum? Just take a magazine and flip through it every day 2 hours. All right, 2 hours. Right, that's what you kind of do there. Yeah, coming back to this, therefore you kind of see understood the background, what you got to do. So you may have to write 3 mocks. One of them you should write as soon as possible from the diagnostic perspective, just to understand this. I will come back to you and speak to you again about this on Wednesday or Thursday. I will give a mock strategy, or I will give a complete strategy for I will discuss the strategy, how to crack them. But before I do a strategy, you go and take 1 mock. You try to figure out your own strategy and do it. Then probably what worked in the past for most of the students, I'll come back and speak about it. Minimum 3, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Thursday, 1 on Friday should be good. No sir, I will give 5, 6 of them. Sure, I'll let know based on your capacities. Please go ahead and do it. But minimum 3 has to be kind of given no matter what, right? That's what I'm expecting there. And very importantly, quickly in the next 2 days, you might have to look through the last 3 or 4 IIFT papers. Look through all of them, but start solving in bits and pieces, right? Bits and pieces. One day you can solve 1 section of DI section. Next day, take another mock and solve the DI section. Third mock, 4 days. Like this, 4 days, previous 4-year papers, DI section. That will give a nice perspective on this, right? Similarly, you can look, especially the DI here. Hey, can I do the same thing on the quant as well? Yeah, that's a nice practice, because you don't have to do anything other than solving the previous year papers for IIFT QA preparation, because there is nothing unusual which comes out there. So whatever you prepared for CAT is much good enough for it. So you don't have to prepare anything. but going through the last few years papers would certainly help you on this particular parameter. Yeah, so therefore all that's as soon as possible. Take a look at all the questions as soon as possible, but start solving one section at a time, right? So again, so which section to solve, which papers to solve, up to you, but then marks has to be taken, right? Yeah, RCs, yeah, so you have to do the RCs are longer, not like your CAT RCs are more inferential. You might have witnessed it yesterday that it was so bad, right? So it could be very different. So here these are long passages, right? These are the Nandini, you should always do it in the reverse fashion. Go as much as possible, right? Always the mock should, always the test paper should be in the reverse order. Latest paper first, and then how deep you can go, your choice. How deep you can go is your choice, right? Yeah, always the latest first, because we have 2 online editions. This has to be done first and then keep going backward, right? Yeah, RCs, right? So coming to the RCs, you should learn to skim faster, because most of the questions are factual in RCs. So you don't have the speed reading skills, you don't know how to skim. That is something that you might have to develop, because CAT skim reading might not help much, because most of them are inferential in nature. So therefore we kind of get into the detailed reading no matter what, more often than not in CAT. Otherwise the questions will not make sense, because most of the questions will be all except, unless I understand the full thing, how do I pick that question for all except this is true, etc., etc. But that's not true when it comes to IIFT. Long passages, you must have that skill of skimming. So questions has to be read first, and then you will do a passage. You've not tried this in the past, this is the time probably you might have to kind of try and develop the skill in the next 4 or 5 days, right? Yeah, coming to VA, it's all about vocab. It's all about vocab and a little bit of grammar, idioms, phrases, and a little bit of grammar. That's what I'm expecting. That's what you should be doing. DI, this is the practice that you do, GK that you do, and just stay in touch with quant and traditional LR. Just stay in touch with this particular parameter, right? Yeah, that brings me to the end of what I wanted to communicate on this. I hope all right now this will help you to at least prepare. I will come back to you maybe after 2 days. So meanwhile, you take 1 or 2 mocks and go through the previous year papers. Then we will come back and talk about the strategic part of it. So yeah, what should be the time strategy, because there is no sectional cutoff. Therefore, what could be the kind of a time strategy that we will kind of take a look through that. Okay, so if you want to understand a little further, you can always ping me on this, and if you have relevant or short questions, I will certainly address you on this particular Telegram channel. Yeah, before I kind of conclude it, I will take a couple of questions from you. Those who liked it, okay, the content has helped you at least to prepare for the next 4 or 5 days. How to plan 10 hours every day for the next 4 or 5 days is what I kind of spoke about, right? What do you need to focus on DILR? What do you need to focus when it comes to the VARC section? So importance of vocab out there, and then certain thing, RCs, what is the things, what do you need to practice in terms of RCs? QA is pretty mundane. What do you need to do on GK? So I kind of gave a background to this, how you can split that every day, 2 hours of each of this, 2 hours of GK, 2 hours of GS, 2 hours of vocab, maybe 2 hours of practice on DI, the approximations. This should kind of take you through there. If you have liked it, you can always press the like button before you kind of leave. Couple of questions, something is relevant here, I will take it up here. Rahul, no, I have not done this. CAT score versus percentile. No, Rahul, I have not done this. That will speak later. That's another discussion altogether. I'm good, Ashutosh, I'm good. Vivek, I will come to that strategic part in the next lecture, right? I told you, first you go ahead, you do this, do a couple of mocks by your raw understanding. Then I will come to it, then I will suggest how one can do it. Maybe we'll do it on Wednesday or Thursday types. By the time all of you guys take 1 or 2 mocks, I will come back to you maybe on Wednesday or Thursday in the night. Then we will kind of make particular strategy for it. Okay, I hope this should make some sense to you. Yes, all right, I will see you in my next lecture. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow I will take some lecture about 8ish. So then we will discuss a couple of other things. Yeah, and then yeah, that's pretty much. Video and NMAT, sure, Ashutosh, we will do it. Meenakshi, this question I already answered. How many questions, all of that. Okay, I will take leave of you guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye till then. Bye-bye. So keep working on the IIFT. Those who are preparing on IIFT, prep for 1 or 2 days. I will also have some lectures on IIFT planned in the next 2 days. I will plan few lectures. So you can see me there and we will discuss more about it. We'll discuss more about it. And the test strategy, I will speak about it on Wednesday or Thursday. All right, watch out for that. So bye till then. God bless you. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.